So today I am talking to Richard from State of Error. I'll finally get him round to doing this interview after a lot of postponements. So here to talk about their new album, Silence Fiction, which came out earlier in the year. Plus everything band related. We have their links to social media and their music in our bio. If you want to go and take a look at that. So let's get started. So regarding local bands, what do you think, or which band do you think has the most potential to be a success? If you was looking at it from a sort of promoter's point of view, someone that you were looking to take this band far, which which band would you think would be the best one that would make it big?
Okay.
Might upset a few people.
Yeah.
But
If I was looking at it from a purely commercial, like A&R Scout perspective,
like, don't care about people's feelings.
I think it would be a toss-up between Defining Lines and As Sirens Fall. I think As Sirens Fall are very much, they've got that commercial image.
Yeah.
I spent some time playing with As Sirens Fall as well, so I know that behind the scenes they run it like a
legit,
business.
yeah.
They're really like, the reason I stepped away from that is because it was all too much
full
on for me. Yeah. I'm I'm more budget and
a bit
up
more
for best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they run a tight ship, and I think that they have an attractive image from a record company kind of perspective.
Yeah.
And then Defining Lines, also they've got the social media side of it down, which is really
they're very
important.
good on social media.
Oh,
They really are good.
They're nailing it at the moment.
Yeah.
Their new single's been featured on Spotify playlist as well, which is really good. Like,
They've got a gig with Memphis Mayfire as well.
yes, yeah. That's
Friday.
tomorrow night, I think.
Is it tomorrow
Thursday,
night?
yeah.
So that's massive, that, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
Especially for like a local band. That's
Yeah. It's huge, yeah. And like I think the great thing about them as well is that they've managed to achieve all of this and build up this following and this really good social media presence in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
Like they've only been a band less than 2 years.
Yeah. And they've got music out. They're on tour with like big, like
proper name
bands. Like,
no,
is that sort of anything when you started, or not even started, but even now, anything that you want it to? Would you want it to be like your job? Would you want the band to be your job, in terms of I'll pump albums out, go on tour, like sort of, or would you want it just to be sort of like a hobby?
Kind of. Yes and no. I would like to be able to just do music and make enough money off that to live. That would be fantastic. That's the dream, obviously. Like anyone who plays music, that's the dream. But I've seen the other side of it, and I know how much work is involved to get to that stage, and how much you have to sacrifice. Because there's so much time and effort spent where you're just pumping money in, pumping time in,
just to get seen.
Exactly, just
before
to get
you even
a kind of
head above water kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before the music industry's properly taking any notice of you, and at that stage you're just pumping money in and getting nothing back out. So, I think when I was 18 and we first started doing State of Error, it was a different story because that seemed feasible then.
You're like, we'll get famous. We'll make money off this.
But when you've got a mortgage and a career,
and you need to pay bills.
Exactly, and you're pushing 30.
You can't tell them that. Oh, we'll get
Exactly, yeah. So it's a bit more complicated, and also there's so much of it that is. No offence to the bands that are successful, but there's a lot of luck involved, and it's not necessarily the most talented people who make it.
Yeah.
It's usually the people who either have the best friends highest up.
Connections,
Yeah, exactly. Or who are kind of good at making those connections and good at selling themselves, which is something we've notoriously bad at. Yeah, we make more enemies than we do friends. So.
would you looking back at when you first started?
Yeah.
And looking back at the album you've just released now, would you if you're when you first started 2007, if you saw that album now and heard the album,
Yeah.
would you like believe you've done it? Would you believe you'd made
No,
this?
not at all. No, especially if you said we produced it ourselves as well. Wouldn't believe it at all. The stuff that we were writing back then, it's a whole different level. I think songwriting's one of those things. It's like I always say, it's like a muscle. The more that you exercise
you get better
it,
at
the
it,
better
and the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And I think after 12 years of doing it, we've improved massively. Not to say that there's not still room for improvement. There always is. But if
light years apart.
Yeah. If I was to bump into 17-year-old me and give myself a copy of Silence Fiction, I think I'd be blown away by that. Like, I wouldn't believe that I could ever achieve what we have achieved with that. We're really proud of it. Yeah.
So if the band, I'm not saying it will, this is just hypothetical. If the band ended today, would you be happy with what's happened? Would you be pleased with? Would you be proud of it?
Yeah, definitely.
If it ended now.
Definitely, like 90% of local bands who get together, whether they're like bands in school or just mates or whatever, they don't last longer than 6 months and don't play, more than a few local shows in front of mates. Yeah. Whereas we've done, shows up and down the country. We've been played all over the world. We've appeared with professional touring musicians. We're published artists. We get royalties for the music we make. Not a lot, but we still, like it. And like things like we played the Bingley Music Live Festival back in 2011 as well. So we've got this big list of things we've achieved over the years, and I think even if it all ended tomorrow, all of us would look back on that
and be like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, when we went on hiatus, when we went on a break in 2013, we were all at that point saying how proud we were of what we'd achieved. Yeah. So, the last 12 months has only just added on to that, I suppose.
So, after this album, what's next for State of Error? What do you see being the future?
We don't think that far ahead.
Do you not?
No, I don't think so. I think the plan is for the next few months, sort of into 2020, to just carry on playing some shows, promote the album, maybe put another single or two out of it, and then go back to writing. Not sure what the plan is exactly yet. We normally do stuff off the cuff. So, we were talking the other day and Danny said he wasn't sure whether or not he wanted to do another album and maybe just do singles instead.
Okay.
And then after a few singles, put them together on an EP and release that.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way it's going, especially with Spotify and stuff. Yeah, you definitely get more out of single releases because it's a single song release and you put it out and you can put it forward for playlist submission. It's much more likely to get onto a playlist and stay onto a playlist for longer. Whereas what we found when because we released the single Firefighter about 2 or 3 weeks before we put the album out.
Yeah.
And every time you release something on Spotify, you can flag one track from that release to be put forward for playlist submission. And what happened was Firefire got put forward for playlist submission when we released that. It got onto the playlists, and then 2 weeks later when we released the Silence Fiction, the album, we put The Way Things Were forward for playlist submission. And that got onto the playlist as well, but that actually knocked Firefire off the playlist.
So they're like competing against each other.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe if we'd have just been doing singles...
one at a time.
Exactly, one at a time with longer spaces between.
I think I've just turned the PlayStation on.
Yeah, you have turned the PlayStation on. That was impressive.
That was.
What was I saying again?
Didn't expect that. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine.
I somehow turned the PlayStation on, like knocking the controller
It wasn't. It was you used the Force.
The Force. There we go.
We've been playing that new Jedi game. So.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it was definitely the Force.
So does this album feel like big? Does it feel like better than anything you've ever done in terms of the sort of attention around it, sort of
Yeah.
the people that are buzzing over it, sort of the reactions the songs are getting? Does it feel different to any time you've ever put anything out before?
Definitely. Yeah. We've got more. There's a lot more interest around this album. The people that have obviously been fans through the years and are now our friends.
Yeah.
They're all really into it. They've all got favourite songs and stuff, which is great. And most of those guys are all in bands now as well, like a part of this Halifax music scene. But we've picked, because we're doing this whole like bands helping each other thing, you find that it causes you pick fans up off the other bands, and other bands will pick fans up of us as well, which is really good. So we've got a lot of the other guys' fans really interested in what we're doing as well.
Yeah.
And like travelling to gigs.
Specifically to see you.
Yeah. Like travelling from Birmingham and even like across in Europe as well. People have come over.
Wow.
It's mental, but it's great. Like it's a great feeling to know that someone's willing to travel to make that effort just to see you. So that's a big thing, for sure.
So personally, the first time I think I saw you live was with Jordan's band, Dead Last.
Yeah.
And that was, I can't remember what that was. It was somewhere, and it was only little. It was a few years ago.
Right.
But since then,
I think where it might be.
I don't know where it was. I was drunk, so I can't remember.
Was it in Halifax?
Yeah, it was in Halifax.
Was it Bar Up above?
It might have been.
Yeah.
Above where Cookies used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. I remember seeing there, and just from like a sort of outsider's point of view, because I was there to support Jordan. Don't necessarily like his music even now, just there to support him.
Cut that bit out.
Just sort of the attention that you've got in terms of like the places you've played and the people you're touring with, and it's weird because it feels like it was just a local band, and now it's like it's a proper band. Like you know what I mean? Do you know you know the difference when it's like when you're like you're just seeing a band in a bar or whatever, and then you see a band a couple of years later, and it's like bloody hell, they're like a proper band. Like, do you understand what I mean though? Like, it feels like you can tell the change that's happened, and it's like wow, bloody hell. Like, I saw them a couple of years ago, so when they're famous, I'll be able to like. it feels a bit like that, and.
I'm glad that other people feel like that, because I just feel the bloody same.
Do you? They feel the same when you played back then?
Yeah. Well, that's the things, like, when you're at a gig, there's a few more people turning up to gigs, obviously, which is great. But as soon as you walk away from that, it's just like normal life again. There's no... Yeah,
you don't see the actual reaction of it.
We're not at the level of being celebrities or anything like that, so it doesn't... It feels strange to hear you say that, because I don't feel like
I think being around sort of them bands that we talked about before, and sort of that Halifax scene, because I'm friends with quite a few of them as well. Yeah. Especially because Jordan, this is another shout out, he's going to love this. He was doing he recorded he's done a couple of your videos.
Yeah, he's done the 3 videos off the album.
Yeah.
I've been done by him.
It did feel a bit like he was doing it, and it was like sort of you were sort of celebrities compared to the rest of the bands. It was like the next level up kind of thing. It felt like that did feel like that, because I think because you'd been at it for 10 years plus. I think they've only just started. It felt like it just felt like you were like a proper band. I don't know how else to say it.
I think I get what you mean. There is an element of that, because like I was saying, how so many so many local bands tend to get together, be really popular for a short period of time because they've got loads of friends, and then the friends have seen them a couple of times, so don't bother coming anymore, and they realise how much sort of graft is involved in being in a band. Then 6 months later, they usually split up. Yeah. And we've seen that happen countless times over the years. Like I could list off an endless names
Of
of
bands that
bands
have
that
come and gone.
Exactly, yeah. And I think because we've been a constant throughout all of that, we're almost like an old witch's tale or something, old wives' tale. Like, that band State of Error,
They're still there. Been around forever.
Yeah, no one's seen them, but we know they exist, and we know they've been here since prehistoric times.
Before we were born, they've been around.
Oh, don't say that, because we're playing with a band in Keighley. Our last show of the year is Keighley at the Exchange on December 20th. Plug.
Yeah,
Tickets available at exchangearts.co.uk for £3.
There you go. Go and buy yourself some tickets.
But one of the bands the band that's opening for us is a band that the venue is heavily plugging at the moment and supporting, because they're like an arts centre, and they support young musicians and sort of getting a leg up kind of thing. But they are all 12 and 13 years old. So that means that when we started doing this, when we were 17, some of them, maybe all of them, did not exist, which is terrifying.
Wow.
And they're now probably better musicians than we are. So there you go.
I suppose it's weird when you look at it like that, isn't it? And it's like, like kids at 12 playing, and like where you are now, and it's like, I suppose that's what music is, though, isn't it? Like, you can start a band at 12, or you can be playing when you're 50 in a pub with your mates. It's like,
there's no rules.
I suppose it feels the same way all the way through. You're just doing it because you want to do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You're doing it just even if you didn't get paid, even if you didn't.
Yeah.
Nothing comes of it. You're just doing it because you want to.
We very rarely get paid. Like, it's all about it's all about just doing it for the enjoyment of doing it. Like, you know, there's an element of massaging your own ego involved in. Sometimes you just want to play a gig because you want to look like you're playing a gig and like you're a proper band. Because a lot of the time it doesn't feel like you are when you're at band practice or you sat at home talking about it. It feels the same as it did when you were 17 years old starting up. And I always feel like we were quite late to the game as well, because I didn't pick up a guitar until I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Which is like half my life ago almost now, but it felt at the time like I was too old to be starting doing it almost, which is really strange thinking back on it.
I suppose there's this sort of idea in there with any sort of talent that you need to be born doing it, and you need to be as early as possible doing it, but not necessarily, because
no, you can learn.
Like you said, when you were 16, you'd never played guitar before.
No.
You'd never think you were in a band and doing all this now, would you? No. You'd never have thought.
Not at 16. No, I always loved music, obviously, and I've always been a singer since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think to pick guitar up until I really got into being in a band.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think maybe I can pick this up and give it a go.
Yeah.
And it's not been something that came naturally to me either. Like, I really had to work at playing guitar and getting better. Whereas some people
just naturals
like that. Which that was never the case for me. It's been a bloody struggle.
Does that make it feel like any sweeter then when you get the recognition?
No, because I see these buggers who've been playing for 2 minutes and they're like shredding away, and I'm like, I can play the pentatonic scale. Yeah. No. Just makes me feel like I've been cheated out of it somehow. Yeah.
Angry at the world.
Yeah, a bit of twisted old man in his corner on his rocking chair. That's me. Pop punk pensioner. Yep.
So, just a few little things before we finish.
Yes.
What are your sort of who are your musical like role models, the people you get influence from, your favourite bands that have made you sort of shape your music around kind of thing? Is there any specific ones out there?
Yeah, there's a few. There's a handful of bands that have consistently been like my favourite bands and the reason that I got into music. So Green Day's a big one, which you can probably tell from listening to State of Error. Like, we're similar in style to Green Day. Obviously Billy Joe was a big influence to me on my guitar playing style as well, and tone wise I tend to go down a similar route in terms of amps and pickups and things like that. Not necessarily because I'm trying to copy how he does it or anything. It's just because that was the music I listened to.
Yeah, so you kind of just grow towards it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. That sound that is created through those means is the sound that I'm trying to achieve, I suppose. And there's a couple of other bands as well, a band called The Matches. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I don't know.
They are a Californian... They're also from Oakland, same place as Green Day.
Yeah.
They call themselves art punk.
Right.
They're not officially a band. Like, they split up a few years ago, but they come back and do reunion shows every now and then. But they're really good. They were a massive influence on me. Sean Harris, their lead singer and guitarist, he was a fantastic lyricist. He was really good at telling stories through lyrics, which I've still not mastered. But I will always endeavour to try.
One day you'll get there.
One day, yeah. I think in terms of storytelling, probably Rosie's the closest I've come. Yeah. Maybe Vixen. So I'm getting better, but I'm not there yet. I need to get some sharper metaphors. I think that's what lets me down. And the other one, in more recent times, has been a band called Bayside from New York. Yeah. They are probably my favourite band at the moment. I've been for quite a while. But Jack O'Shea, their guitarist, is amazing. Like, he just makes a guitar sing. Yeah. He's not necessarily like the quickest or the shreddiest player. It's just the way that it sounds, the way that he writes the guitar solos almost like a melody, and they're really well fitted for the songs. Yeah. So yeah, they're my three main influences I would say. Yeah.
And do you think, if you could have, sorry, I'll reword this. Yeah. Any album out there that you've listened to, if you could have made it, which would it have been? Like, if you could put your name and say, I made that, what's like the favourite one that you would, not necessarily just as a fan, just as someone who actually wrote the album in terms of...
Wow. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I've never thought about this before.
I suppose it's different asking just a fan. Yeah. Whereas talking to someone who writes music, you might see it from a different point of view, because you appreciate like what it takes to write an album and what it takes to write a song. Is there anything out there that you'd gone, I'd love to have? I wish they were my songs. Like.
Yeah, there's a lot. I tend to prefer albums to singles. I like to listen to an album from cover to cover because I think that's, someone has made a decision to put those songs in that order and to record it in that way.
And I think that's how you feel like how you get connections to a band as well, if you listen to it like that. Yeah.
I think you learn more about the artists by listening to the full album rather than just the song, because it's like a book.
If you pick up a book, it's like a story, and it's done in a specific way. Yeah.
You wouldn't just jump to a page.
Yeah, halfway through the book.
So I always prefer to listen to albums that way, and I don't know if that's just a thing of being a musician, and that's very much a musician way of seeing it. Maybe it is. This is a difficult question. Maybe Decomposer by The Matches is one of my favourite albums, and I would love to have come up with some of the ideas on that album and the way that it pieces together as a full thing as well. There's another album that I really like, but I don't want to say what it is because it's shameful.
You can say it, no worries.
Well, I can't because we're not allowed to listen to it. Well, I've not listened to it in years now because of who it is.
Right, I've got a feeling.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling this is going.
Yeah, Start Something by Lost Prophets. I think that was, at the time, not in current context, a really good album, and it was just ruined for me. But yeah, what I liked about that album was the way that there was little fills in between the tracks, like little ambient noise or little drum bits. I thought that was
just
good.
To keep it going, so it's not just song.
Exactly, yeah. I think that had really been thought out, but now I want nothing to do with it.
Throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Scrap it.
Gone forever.
Gone forever, unfortunately.
So yeah, I would not like to put my name to that.
No.
Definitely not.
So, yeah, as a is it done as gonna end on question as this album as of now exceeded your expectations for it in terms of the like when you put it, it's like we want this as an album, we want it to do this, we want this. Has it done that? Like
Yeah,
when you started the album, has it been a success so far?
definitely more than we could have ever thought. I think the highest expectations we had were when we put Nobody's Fool out, with it being the first thing that we'd done in so long, and there wasn't loads of, we didn't build loads of hype up before it. We did a little bit when we
But
were,
you just sort of threw it out.
yeah,
there,
exactly. We did a little bit when we were doing the music video and stuff, and like a teaser a couple of weeks before, just to get so that people knew it was happening.
Yeah.
But there wasn't this massive build up over months before to say we were releasing something. And I think the point that we wanted to get across with that was that we are still very much the same as a band and in style, but the music has grown up a bit.
Yeah.
And I think that the lyrical content of that song was a very good way of putting that across, and summed up really well how the whole album is.
Yeah.
And it was the best track we could have chosen to put out first, I think. And we were blown away by the response from that. Like, we were getting 1,500 streams a day on Spotify, which is mental.
Wow.
And like, everything's relative, so that probably to some people doesn't sound like that
But
much.
to you,
But to us,
everything, yeah.
before that, we were lucky if we got 2 streams a day on Spotify. So it's quite a difference. And yeah, we've, the album turned out better than we could have expected. We weren't sure going into it at the beginning, because we'd recorded the 10-second Shotgun EP ourselves as well. And the quality of that was okay to say we'd done it ourselves, but it wasn't, nowhere near as good as what we've achieved now. So I think we didn't really know what the end product would be.
Yeah.
And we were really pleased. And a lot of that just came from not compromising on quality. You can go to a studio and they've got tens of thousands of pounds of outboard gear and compressors and stuff that they can feed all the different mics through to make them sound really good. We didn't have any of that. So everything that we did, we had to do manually using EQs inside Logic and
Everything the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. Just taking time over it and making sure every little thing was perfect. And I mean, it drove us insane pretty much by the end of it. But
was it worth it?
Definitely, yeah. Because we've got something that album's going to exist forever.
Yeah.
Like, it might not. Spotify might not exist forever.
But
it might not always be on there.
It'll be out there.
Someone somewhere will have a copy of it.
Yeah.
And it's something that Danny will be able to pass down to his children, and Mikey if he has kids. And I mean, I'm not planning on having children, but I will pass it on to someone.
Somebody. Someone's child.
Yeah, someone's child will have a copy of Silence Fiction. Like, there you go. Pass this on. Future generations appreciate local music and pay to go see local bands. That's my message.
Yeah,
That's my election manifesto.
Is it?
Yeah.
See local bands.
Yeah.
Buy the merch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like a hypocrite now because I've told Aviard that I was going to go to the Memphis Mayfire gig tomorrow, and I can't go because of Christmas things.
So do it if you can do it.
Do it if you can do it, yeah. Don't put yourself out, but if you are free and you have enough money to go, I feel like I'm backpedaling. Yeah, just
if
support.
the circumstances are right.
Yeah, support local music.
So
Because being in a band is difficult.
yeah.